Bit of rain, but here in the studio, all is good. I came out of my car and I saw everybody's asleep. So I walked down the street. My producer is panicking. He says, "Where are you, Zed? Where are you? Where are you?" I said, I'm coming. And I just ran and I said, "Wake up, everybody." So that right now, that's what I'm going to do is ask you all to wake up. You're listening to Zed on Ramadan Radio on 87.9 FM. So as we start every day, we say, first person who calls in is going to get a prize. That will give you incentive to wake up. Now, yesterday, after I dished out one Chaiwala voucher, I had people just saying, am I the first? Am I the first? I said, no, you last. You should have called in when I told you to call in on 0116 4822 for a wonderful Chaiwala breakfast. It is worth a lot of dosh. So call in. Of course, we had quite a few calls coming in for the 80 pence campaign for the radio Ramadan appeal for the Children's Hospital at the LRI, Leicester Royal Infirmary. 80 pence, that's all it takes. So put your hands in your pockets and dig out 80 pence. And then I'm going to work out a formula how you're going to get it over to the hospital. So work in progress. So 80 pence, that's all we need. 1.2 million in the city and in the county. And all we're looking for is 1 million people out of the 1.2 million to dish out 80 pence. And we'll raise £800,000. And then that project is complete and we'll all be very happy. Right, today we have a wonderful guest joining us today, Dr. Saima Anis. Are you with us, Saima? Good morning to you.
Good morning.
MashaAllah, you're awake and you are absolutely far away. Of course, you're 5 hours behind, calling in from Philadelphia in USA. And how are you there? How's the weather over there?
Oh, it's getting pleasant. It's springtime weather. We have a little bit of rain, and it's lovely.
Of course, I know it's far away, but have you been following the Children's Hospital appeal?
Yes, so how are you doing? How are you progressing with the 80 pence appeal?
Well, 80 pence, that'll be $1 to you over there. So if you've got $1 and you can find a way to get it over to me, I'd be appreciating that. So how many members in your family?
Plenty. Plenty to make up your million, if that's the goal.
Wow.
Let me tell you guys what this is about. There's a state-of-the-art children's hospital in Leicester City, and Radio Ramadan FM has one of the OR operation rooms named after it.
No, we have one of the rooms named after
one
us.
Of the rooms named
The operation, the intensive care unit is named after one of our partners here at the radio called Drop of Compassion, and they also got
right?
That's right.
Remember, the 80 pence appeal applies to people worldwide. You can do the conversion. If each one of you, up to 1 million people, donates that, there we have it.
Well, it's an example for the world to follow, isn't it? So whenever we do anything, we like it to have an effect throughout the world. So any good deeds, any good actions, always will plant the seeds for your good deeds tomorrow. So, Saima, I hope that you and I can convey this message that month of Ramadan is all about good actions, isn't it?
That's right.
And what?
Give as much charity, sadaqah, and zakat, and donate.
Lila, right. And of course, that's what it's all about. And it's great, when you get people involved from another side of the world. So like often we are collecting funds as zakat and we send it over to the other side of the world. But it's not a crime if people from the other side of the world also take part in donating money to a project that's happening here. So every day we ask the local community that, have you got a project that you're doing right now in the community? And that's very important. So we're going to, obviously, we're going to join a lot of good people throughout the month. And how are you getting on with the COVID, with the vaccine situation? And what's happening there with the children rollout?
So our general adult population vaccine situation is pretty satisfactory. Our president has deemed that by July, we should be able to have enough vaccinations done that people can return to work. Of course, that remains to be seen. We're still in May. We still have June to go through. But the numbers are either stabilizing or they're dwindling in some states. I think today, since we started out, we're talking about children. We should talk about how COVID happens in kids. So, people are, we're not seeing numbers in the media for children. And it's funny, it's hard to tell how many kids may have been affected because testing is not uniformly administered in this age group. By children, we mean people from 1 to 18. Now, the older you get, as in closer to 18, might still be easier because, younger adults may be more responsible when they show symptoms, and their parents may encourage them to go themselves or take them for testing. So those numbers may be noted. But there are really no statistics, but we have been seeing sick kids all along. Now, what that means in terms of how we're doing with the kid population and COVID is that it's definitely a risk, just like the flu is, right, Zed?
Of course.
And kids and adults both get vaccines for the flu season. So we're not far from the idea of something like that for children either.
So this is a very interesting point because the children, everyone says, well, children don't get it. If they do, they recover, they snap out of it, right? But we've seen so many schools across the world, across the globe, that they close down because one or two children are positive, and it's a huge issue. Because of course, imagine the education, the impact analysis when you do that. If you stop the kids in their tracks for their learning, and their future is affected, isn't it? A year out of their lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we go on any further, I think it'd be useful for us to discuss how it looks when a kid gets sick with COVID. So more than likely, a child will not come with the same symptoms that an adult comes with. It could be that they come with diarrhea, a tummy ache, runny nose, perhaps that might mimic allergies, a sore throat that might mimic like a strep throat infection, or things like that. They may not come with too much non-specific symptoms like fatigue, and they may have fever. Fever is a telltale sign always, so always check your child's temperature. Most of us have a thermometer at home. Now we have the convenience of having a thermometer that you just have to shoot it like a gun against your forehead or your arm, and you're able to take temperature. So that's a common practice that in households that people do for their children. In some schools in the US, at least, if they have asked the children to return in person, they've asked the parents to record specific symptoms in the morning before they go into school, and they've developed apps to do that. Look at how convenient that is. So you record if there's fever or not, you record on the app if there is shortness of breath, cough, tummy ache. And if there is any of that in the morning before going to school, the app tells you to give it a hard stop, which means that the information gets reported to the school, and the child may not go in that day and may stay home for 24 hours or until the pediatrician clears by doing a test. So that's really convenient. But going back to the how kids look when they're sick, usually not too ill. The severity of illness from COVID in kids is much less than what we are seeing in adults. And it's really hard to figure out why, but that's a good thing for us. Hey, we'll take that. Maybe they're more resilient than us. Maybe their immune systems are still sort of virgin in the sense that they can mount a bigger response and a better response. So, different things, different theories, but nothing proven, no evidence-based studies as yet that have come out that can substantiate that claim. But definitely, there is a group of children where there, there've been deaths with kids also, and it would be so easy for a doctor or a person writing the certificate, God forbid, to say, well, this kid may have had COVID, but what they're really coming in with is something called MIS-C, which is MIS-C, which is multi-system inflammatory systemic response to COVID. And what we're seeing is a severe illness in a very few cases where the fever is over the charts, the kid is very, very sick. There's systemic symptoms, meaning the kid is like respiratory, can't breathe, can't digest, can't do anything, like shutting down, and ultimately, going into shock-like state and passing away, God forbid. So those are the kinds of things that physicians have been dealing with as well, but a very few of them. uh, in our areas where we live in urban and suburban areas, that is very far and few and far in between. We're not really worrying about that yet. There's this whole issue about vaccines. Ed, what's your take on that for children?
Well, I'm listening to you attentively because you've explained it quite layman terms, and this is what I like on the radio because people in the mornings, not even got their microprocessor going in their brains and like to keep it simple as possible, which is wonderful. But what my take is right now, I'm saying to the world, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that nothing lasts forever. And the bad news, Dr. Saima, is nothing lasts forever. That's my take on it. That we got to all pray that we come out of this and we learn something from it. We appreciate how that we're going to engage with each other across the globe, humanity, where we build a society where race, color, creed, religion, tradition, culture is irrelevant. That's my take on it,
So
Dr.
I'll
Saima.
pick you up on that. I will. And what I will tell you is, so there's a newer drive for vaccination now amongst the children population. So what that means is they've grouped it into two groups. One group that is 12 to 15, because in the US at least, 16 on has been able to get vaccination. So 12 to 15 group who may get vaccinated come summer. So Pfizer is doing this whole drive. They've done some testing, trials in children through this spring and winter, and they've come up with the conclusion that it's fine, it's safe. They're able to administer that. Not sure if the dosage is low in kids or how they're doing this, but we'll find out when it rolls out. Still to be rolled out, but the announcement has been made. The second group will be the group that returns to elementary school or middle school in the fall. And that group is from 2 years to 11 years. So they have still to announce that rollout, but we anticipate that in September, when they do go to school in the fall, when all the children and adults get their flu vaccine, that group should also get a COVID vaccine along with the flu vaccine. And that's so convenient. You're going to your pediatrician or you're going to your school health person, your nurse, whoever you have in the school, and they'll give you, instead of one shot, two shots. That makes it easy. Nobody has to go make an extra appointment. And, we're hoping that this whole drive, this whole programmatic approach to the two groups of children is also carried out throughout the world. Zed, have you heard anything about it in the UK?
Well, I haven't kept track on the vaccine situation with children at all, to be honest with you, because I've been too engrossed in watching all the press from India, and all our attention has been there. And of course, we are all concerned with what happened in the mosque at Al-Aqsa. Also, many people lost their lives, and a lot of atrocities happening where they take your attention away from the vaccine for children, and that's where we are with it. And of course, there was that other interesting story I read from your side of the world about the doctor in Jersey who lost his life, and he was a vaccination expert, and he went to India. And you probably know more about that story than I do, so if you can touch upon that. Very sad.
Yes, and that's very close to home. Thanks for mentioning that and bringing it up. The doctor gentleman was part of the extended South Asian community in Jersey, which is sort of like 20 minutes over the bridge for us Pennsylvanians. And so we're an extension of that South Asian community out in Pennsylvania. But this physician in particular worked at Rutgers, which has a medical school associated with it as well, pretty renowned in the area and beyond. Apparently, he traveled to see his dad, who was suffering, and he had been vaccinated. Yet when he arrived, he fell sick. He did have comorbidities, meaning he had other issues. He had some, chronic conditions. I think they're saying, as a rebuttal to the announcement on COVID expiration, people have been going around and circulating a WhatsApp saying that it really, you can't really ascribe this his demise to COVID, but because he had other issues. So it remains to be confirmed. But our first suspicion is, if someone is already suffering from other issues and they contract COVID, it's a worser case scenario. So it's a lesson for people from people from our community who are always ready to travel to their homelands. And in this scenario where India is having a huge breakout, just 2 weeks, a week and a half ago, when the news broke out, people were actually canceling their appointments and putting their lives on hold to fly out and get their loved ones, whoever they could, back to the US. And that caused a huge travel panic. And, they had to instill many more regulations in place vis-a-vis flying and coming back. And they announced, like, in the next 4 days, that travel would be banned from Indian ports. So, things of that nature. I think it'd be prudent at this point to just stay put and not go to India, where there's a double variant, which we talked about last time, where there's more virulence, there's more transmission, and there's more risk of severe illness. And better to be safe than sorry. Take precaution, stay put, wish the best for your loved ones. If they can, they should travel out by themselves. And if you're here, if you're absolutely healthy, less of a risk. If you have other conditions, the doctor's story, sad story. May God bless him.
Of course, he had already had a double vaccination with Pfizer,
That,
didn't he? I
that's
read
right.
in the
That's right.
in the
And those
press.
kinds of when you've already been completely vaccinated and you still get an infection and you still suffer, that's called a breakthrough infection. So it's not uncommon. There have been numbers on it. So it's not uncommon for people to suffer. It is sort of uncommon for someone to die from it. Therefore, the causality has not been completely established in this case. So before people are going and saying, this person absolutely died from COVID, we don't know that for sure. So
Of course,
yeah.
that's very important. But the message here is everybody to be vigilant, everybody to take extra care, and you're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting yourself from other people and your relatives and your loved ones. So absolutely, we have to be vigilant, because definitely what I've learned, that this is the new norm. Absolutely, this is the new norm. Whereas I'd meet people, I'd shake hands with them, but now habitually you don't do that. You just you know put your fist out and you touch their elbow or something like that. Everybody's got a different style, haven't they? So
Right. And like, going back to the India case, where we're seeing oxygen shortages. And you wonder, like, is that the only thing that keeps people afloat when they're severely sick? Well, there are a number of things, but in the case of India, people have some people have lesser, milder disease, and what they really need to do with oxygen is to keep the lungs aerated as best as they can, knowing that COVID is not just a lung disease. It's basically a disease that causes some clotting, extra clotting in the blood vessels that supply the lung. Therefore, the oxygenation to the lung is decreased. So therefore, the need for oxygen. So it's a crucial treatment for very severe COVID, of course. Patients come in with severe shortness of breath, and we all know that. Sometimes they even get a pneumonia, which is an infection all through the lung, and because the lungs start to fill with fluid, and if you can't get enough air, you can't get it to any other place in your body, so all your organs start to shut down. The problem in India, though, is that the majority of the factories that are making oxygen, they're producing it, they're located in the eastern part of the country. And the eastern part of the country is more than 1,000 miles away from where the center of the outbreak is, in New Delhi and in Mumbai. So there is one huge industrial conglomerate, and that was founded by, like, a now 92-year-old billionaire. And he's been able to ramp up oxygen production from 1,800 metric tons to 2,300 metric tons a day over the past few weeks. And that's more than a third of, like, 7,000 metric tons that is produced each day in India. Yet, It's not able to keep up
Well,
with the
here,
demand.
now you're going into some science where nobody has a clue what is a metric ton of oxygen. Oxygen is free. When you say oxygen, carbon dioxide, you breathe in, you breathe out, and it's free, and nobody even ever thought about this, what's happening there in India. And, you mention all these tons, and people are losing their lives, 400,000 cases a day, and you think, India, a mega country with a population of almost touching 1.384 billion people, and the problem is they'll spend 15% of their GDP on weapons of mass destruction, and they will spend 0.34% of their GDP on health and care. It's a lesson for all of us in this world that our first priority should lie for our sanitation, our health, and our well being. And I hope that the message you put out today with these 2,300 tons of oxygen a day being produced when oxygen is free, that everybody listening in right now, that all our focus and attention should be for the preservation of humanity, not for spending 15%. It should be the other way around. 0.34 should be spent on weapons of mass destruction, and 15% should be spent on your health care. Dr. Saima, are you with me?
I, I absolutely am. I have to interject and say that the oxygen that we breathe, which is usually 2 to 3 liters, and I'm just going to say this, you know how much a ton is? A ton is a huge amount compared to what our lungs breathe in and breathe out.
Yeah, 1,000 kilos.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no comparison. And the oxygen that's produced in these factories is basically tanks of compressed gases. And these tanks travel by road or by trains, within the country. So, and then you can even get something like an oxygen concentrator, but that sucks the oxygen out of the air, and that achieves a very high concentration within the tank or within the container, and then you can administer it. And all these things have to travel from one place to another, and that's not so easy, given the demand is rising, given that the infrastructure is not able to keep up with the supply and the support and the transport. So it's a real problem. So what's happening is that people are being turned back when they go to buy their own, to administer at home, for instance, because really you don't want your patient, if they're not severely very very sick, into the hospital. You can treat them at home maybe sometimes. So families are going out. We're seeing heartbreaking stories, news pieces from frustrated caregivers, family
Well,
and friends.
question is, how much is your life worth? People are paying $500 just for a small tank, and that is there's no value to what your life is worth. If you had to spend 1 million, you would do it just to save yourself. Like, you remember what Steve Jobs said, that I've got all the billions I need in the world, but today I can't find one person to swap places with me. And what is the value of life? Now, of course, let's switch it over to a heartwarming story that I picked up on social media about a young doctor in the USA who has very quickly managed to raise almost $500,000.
Yeah, and that's again very close to home. Looks like all the action happens around where I live. So good choice in picking me to talk about it. Uh, there's a University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League school out here, which has a number of colleges in different fields, has a medical school. Dr. Talvar, Ruchika Talvar, who is Indian heritage, meaning the parents are from New Delhi, 28-year-old resident of urology, and she says that her and a group of area physicians have raised almost 500,000 in 1 week, to help send supplies directly to these state-run hospitals in India that are in dire need. So that's something that's a big feat. She started out with a WhatsApp group, and in New Jersey and Philadelphia, and she says that it's just beyond her that how her WhatsApp group grew exponentially within a week's time, from her doctor community to other doctor communities, and just this grassroots level effort. Her phone filled up with thousands of messages from people looking to help, and she felt like she really could step up and do this. Now, her mom, who also went to a med school in Delhi, they decided she wanted to help out and she wanted to start with sending like 50 oxygen concentrators using the help of her classmates. So they each got $500, say for instance, together, and they gave it to her. And so, and then other people on the ground in India, their connections in the doctor community, they stepped up and they started. So since this 500,000 has been raised, she asked her medical school. They first matched it up with $50,000. When they saw what a great effort she was doing, they doubled it. So she got $100,000 from University of Pennsylvania, and that's no mean feat. That's really great. So the message here is, it's really easy in some instances to raise the donations and the money and the funding to do all this. What's really hard is, on the ground, who's going to actually get it to them? Because you have it in India and other developing countries, there's a bit of mistrust in the system. And it's not enough to just say that we don't feel comfortable donating, or I'll just give a small amount. You really need people to take on the initiative, and you need to make sure the work gets done, because if not, then people are dying.
Of course, this is a problem everywhere. You've got to have people on the ground who have got sharing your passion, your vision, your dedication, your commitment. And, you got to just ask a friend for help. That, do you know anyone? Can you connect me with someone? And they'll say, well, I've got a friend, I've got a relative. And you got to start the journey somewhere. And it's so important to find that good, honest human beings out there that will carry out, be an extension to your arm. All the charities, the big charities, they have their own teams on the ground. And here, a lot of charities have been collecting a lot of money. But the point here is that one individual came out with an idea, and within a week, isn't it? Is that right? About a week, they raised 500,000.
$500,000
within a week. And this is the power of networking. So I'm inspired by that success, and I'm thinking, well, how are we going to raise £800,000, which is about $1 million? That maybe you can connect this doctor with us and ask her to work with us on our hospital appeal. Imagine if we got globally people interested, and they said, right, I will help out, I'm going to donate some money here to this hospital. And then this hospital starts to network with the rest of the world. What a fantastic idea.
Yes, connecting you appropriately with the people who are actually making a change, and then using one of your acronyms, SWIFT.
Of course.
Because now, like you said, it's a SWIFT generation, right?
Yeah, we live in that SWIFT generation right now, or Generation SWIFT. If you could kindly remind all our listeners right there, what is the Generation SWIFT all about?
So S is Snapchat, W is WhatsApp, I is Instagram, F is Facebook, and T is Twitter, and not to be reminded, TikTok.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can be a Twitter, sometimes it can be a TikTok, because people now are struggling to have both of them in their life. It's one or the other, or even both. Some of the hardened techies, they go with both of them, but that's how it is. So if we can use all of these mediums and make some good out of it, that would be fantastic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it could serve a great purpose. So this is how closely we are connected. And of course, this year we've seen a global interest impact with our communities across the board. They're engaging with us from different countries, and our listenership is across the world right now. And it's been fantastic. We really appreciate all of that. And you learn. Every day is a day of learning, isn't it?
Absolutely. Would not disagree with that.
Now, here at the Radio Ramadan, you're listening right now to Ramadan Radio, or Radio Ramadan. We always say it both ways, 87.9 FM. And we're still waiting for somebody to wake up and call us on 0116 48222086 for that famous Chai Wala voucher that you can go and have a yummy breakfast after Ramadan. So, of course, you are too far away, Saima, so you will not be able to have this yummy Chai Wala breakfast. Is there any Chai Walas in your area?
There's similar efforts. However, Uber Eats should not be beyond your reach to get your Chai Wala to me.
I'll have a go. My producer is now shaking his head thinking, how can that be done? But I think our producer will come out with some idea to get a box of goodies out there to you. And we've had all the presenters, they were enjoying a yummy meat pilau last week. And those presenters who were from abroad, like yourself, or guests, we need to find some innovative way to get a box out to them. So there is a little bit of homework for our producer. He'll be on it straight away.
I'll be waiting.
Of course, I'll also take this opportunity right now to thank you for your participation with the Ramadan Radio, and inshallah, we shall continue to build bridges from across the water, the Pacific, the Atlantic, and all the seas in the world. It's so important for us to engage with each other and learn from each other, share stories, share good stories.
Yes. And my parting thoughts and words are be well, keep safe. And in this era of the pandemic, mask up.
Jazakallah khair for that. Health and well-being, that is what we make du'as for all of you who've been listening in this morning for the first session. Don't go away. Please join us. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Saima. And we shall look forward to meeting with you again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are back here on Ramadan Radio on 87.9 FM. So, how are you guys? We just had a little short break. Now we're back in action here to meet some wonderful people here today. Of course, you thought that people are asleep. You were wrong. There are many people who are awake, wide awake, listening it to Ramadan Radio on 87.9 FM. Of course, you can catch this also on your device at home called Siri or Alexa. All you got to say is Alexa, 87.9 FM, Ramadan Radio in Leicester. 87.9 FM. You must say FM, otherwise.
No, you have to say Ramadan FM and
Okay.
you will come.
Ramadan FM, that's what you got to say. Alexa is very particular. If you get one word, one letter wrong, she will not respond. And don't say Alexis. A lot of people make that mistake. They're half asleep with one eye closed and they say Alexis and Alexa will not respond. I can tell you that now.
Zed, I always says Alexa and it works.
Alexa, you must have the Indian version of the Alexa. Or
Most likely.
a foreign version of it. But I'm going to bring in our first guest here today, our colleague and esteemed guest here today called Kirk Mastev. Kirk, good morning to you.
Alaikum, morning Zed, you okay? You well? Thank
course.
you for having us this morning.
Of course,
Really appreciate it.
all of you listeners will recognize that voice. We've been hearing it for many, many years, even before we had the technology of cameras, you know. Kirk, nice to
know.
have you.
How come we can't see you on our cameras? You're on a different feed, I guess.
Well, it's a Ramadan radio technology issue here, which we shall address next year. We need some dosh for that, and we'll get that right. You know, it's all about the dosh, Mr. Master.
Okay.
It's all about the money, and we have with us also Joanna. Joanna, if you could introduce yourself, please, to the listeners in Leicester.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Joanne Randall and I'm from New Parks. I'm in an organisation called Team Hub.
Team Hub. Did you
Yeah.
say? Did you say team?
Team, yes.
Is that what I think? What it means? Team. How is that spelled? Tell me.
TEAM.
TEAM for
M.
mother.
That's the one, yeah.
Kirk, you know what the significance of that is to me.
I know. I didn't actually tell Joe, actually. I should have tipped her off a bit, but you've really got him going now, Joe.
Joanne, Joanne,
He'll tell you.
you are a sister. Sister who was in hiding, who is now joined the teams. Have you heard of teams?
No.
Well, here it goes. I've got to tell you about teams, Joanna. Do you know what it means?
Go on then.
You don't know. Joanne does not
No.
know what teams means because she has been stuck with team, TEAM. Now, Kirk, I need you to join in this conversation here and tell Joanna what is the significance of teams and how does it differ from team? There's a missing letter there, Kirk. We got to fix that.
I'm trying to remember the acronym in full. It's teams as together everybody achieves more. And the S, I'm trying to think, is it success?
Wow, Kirk, you did a little bit of acting there. You did a little bit of acting there. You caught Joanna out on the hop. Of course, I'm going to give it to you, Joanna. It means together everyone achieves more success. Not everybody, everyone.
Okay.
And it achieves more success. Now, Joanna, that is a charity that was set up here in the city of Leicester in the period 2010, and it specifically went out of its way to assist other projects in the city of Leicester. So every day we call out to say, if you've got a great project in the city, bring it on. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss your project, how we can all assist each other. And Joanna, did you catch up on that every day on Ramadan Radio?
Well, obviously, this is the first time I've come on and known about you, but I will now be catching up with you and listening in.
Right, Joanna, we are on a mission, you and I. We got to make sure that everybody in Beaumont-Leys, LE3, they know about teams and team, how they met live on Ramadan Radio 87.9 FM in New Parks. Of course, Beaumont-Leys is part of the wider district there is called New Parks. If you know this area, please put your right hand up and let me know that you are aware of this area, New Parks, Beaumont-Leys. Joanna, here's a question for Mr. Master and also for you. Whoever answers this first is going to get a chai wala voucher. Are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
What is the city population in Leicester? And does Beaumont Leys and New Parks come into the city, or does it come into the county? You first, Joanna. You first. You're a lady.
Okay, ladies,
Ladies
first.
first.
The population. I don't even know where to start. 37,000.
I'm going to go for a break now. Mr. Kirkmaster, hold me back, please.
God. It's
I
too
think-
early for me this morning.
I think
to ask
he was talking
questions.
about the New Parks and Beaumont Leys population.
Right.
That was
That's what Joe answered.
that was a very tactical maneuver there.
Thank you, Kirk.
LE3 is 37,000, but the city of Leicester, Kirkmaster will tell us what is the population.
Approximately 350,000.
Actually, it was 347,000, but now with the new census, which will be on the social media, and it will be on Google, and it will be on Wikipedia, it's going to be estimated to exceed about 450, thereabouts. Of course, another day, Kirk will tell me a breakdown of all those 450,000 people as to what their ethnicities is, where their grandfathers were born, and what their DNA breakdown is, and of course we'll do that. But of course, Joanna,
Well, when the census comes out next year, then yeah, we'll probably be able to have that conversation.
right now, here we go, Joanna. It's all about KIP. You familiar with KIP, Joanna?
No.
Well, KIP is knowledge is power, and that's what we got to do today, is have some knowledge is power food in us today, right? That is very important. And of course, we're going to do a bit of ATC today. Joanna, are you ready for the ATC?
I am, yeah.
ATC, it means what, Joanna? Don't worry, don't scratch your head, I'll tell you what it is.
Go on, please.
I'm not going to ask Kirk because he knows everything, so I'm going to just tell you myself. I need a slice of the cake as well. It's adapt to change. That's what we got to do during this COVID period. We've all had to adapt to change, Joanna. So tell us now about your Team Hub project, Joanna.
Okay. So Team Hub is a building obviously based in New Parks, and it is a building for the whole community. So it's for everybody. There's no age limit in there. We do something for everybody, and it's just a place for everybody to be able to come and feel part of the community. We are all kind of local and volunteers that go into the centre and just try to make a difference to everybody and make those changes. Be able to get the community's voice out there, to be able to say what we need and what difference can be made. So we do lots and lots of projects in there. How long have I got?
Right, in your hub, how many people are involved there with the management of your hub?
So with the management, it is obviously a bit smaller. So the management mainly is there's 3 directors here at the hub, but then I have a great team of assistants and people that run different projects within the hub. So really about 10 of us.
Of course, I want to ask you a question now. The people that you engage with across, is it only in New Parks or do you stretch out a little bit?
I mean, mainly it is New Parks, but especially during COVID when we've been supporting a lot of other people. A lot of other people now are using the hub. It just doesn't have to be just because you're from New Parks.
And where is your funding come from to operate that hub?
Our funding comes from ourselves. So it's what we make within the building with hiring out the rooms, doing sponsors, doing fundraisers, and that's how we fund the building.
So
we have had some funding, but
So
the main bulk of it is we raise it as a community.
Okay, now, here we have an issue with all the community organizations. They need constant support and they need hand-holding. And today, we have only 8 minutes to go and we need to find a solution as to how we're going to fix that problem, Joanna, together. Together, if we want to achieve more success. Are you with me, Kirk?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think Joe's playing down the kind of role that she does in New Parks, to be fair. And she does do a lot more citywide than just in New Parks. Just as an example, she's been integral in the knife crime strategy, the serious finance strategy that we're rolling out across the city. The food bank stuff that she does doesn't have any barriers. They're welcoming to anybody from different parts of the city. people that know New Parks, and I think why it's important for us as communities to understand, we have the same issues in parts of Highfield, social deprivation, high exclusion rates from schools, poor social housing, etc., etc. And projects like Joe's in New Parks play an instrumental role to supporting these young people and their families, similar to what we do as a kind of Muslim community here through Ramzan and the rest of the year. And I thought the parallels of what Joe done runs through with a lot of the stuff that some of our volunteers do here in this part of the city as well, Zed. So I don't want
course.
you to think and play it down. You know, she does
No,
an
of course,
exceptional amount in
Joanna,
that area.
what I'll share with Kirk is that the Muslim ethos is exactly together everyone achieves more success. When this charity was founded, people used to ask, why a name like that, you know? And the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad, always built the foundation of this religion on the basis of together everyone achieves more success. So when you have differences between people, colors, creeds, religions, cultures, traditions, you're just lighting fires every day. And when you all work together, supporting each other, regardless of color, creed, race, then you're going to see some happiness and some success, Joanna.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
And that's what we're all about. I suppose it is why we chose the name part of it. You know, we've run quite a lot of in there. So from a dance academy to Team Youth, Team Tots, Team Chatterbox, Team everything. So that's what we are. And I think that's why we chose.
Well, I
chose
believe
that name.
I believe that today the reason why we met, you are team and
Yeah.
I'm teams, and we got to get our act together, Joanna, and make things
Yeah.
happen. Of course, I don't know Kirk how he worked all that out, and he brought this project to the radio, and Kirk's he's got a trick up his sleeve, I think, you know.
Zed, if one person's taught me about having tricks up their sleeve, you are the master at having tricks up
No,
your
I'll
sleeve.
tell you what. You're
The most resourceful man I've met.
you're a politician, Kirk, and I know that the man who's got a trick up his sleeve is a guy called Tiger Patel.
Oh God, yeah, have you seen that? Amazing.
Joanna,
Amazing.
after the program, you got to look that up on your Google and
I'm going
see.
to.
And Joanna, the inspiration about Tiger Patel is how he managed to smash his way through all the glass ceilings that were ahead of him. And he's got to be a mascot for the country. That how one man, when people said he was mad, and he made a difference. And at the end of the day, he's the one laughing because he got elected there in his region as a councillor. And for him, that was like becoming prime minister in England.
Yeah.
And his passion, his dedication, his commitment, we all got to follow that, you know, that not laugh at it, but he's an example for all. When I was watching his videos and people laughing at him, but they're not laughing now, are they, Joanna? He's become a councillor.
Yeah.
And so on. So guys, Joanna, tell us now, we got a little time left, exactly what your needs are in your community centre.
Yeah. So what it is we have a leaking roof. And the roof is in our main hall. The part that's leaking is in our main hall, which is the most used bit of the building. And we've got a fundraise to be able to repair it.
What about insurance?
It's not part. It doesn't come under the insurance part of it. It's because it is wear and tear. It is wear and tear, and obviously when we took the building on as a lease, it was something that we knew would need repairing, especially in the 5 years that we were going to have it. And obviously we've been putting money aside, but then unfortunately COVID hit us as well as, and with the buildings being able to be funded by room hires and activities we had going on, when COVID hit, all that reserve had to be used just to keep the building going, so we could support the community during the difficult time, but also to be able to open back up when COVID's finished. So it's been really hard. And we've had obviously lots of quotes, and it's like £12,500 that we've got to raise. So what I did is I did a bit of a shout out to our local community just to say, you know, we need to get this done, and how can everybody help us? And to be totally truthful, I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the support that we've had from the local community, because they're struggling and it's been very tough. And in 8 weeks, for them doing raffles and sponsors and different stuff, they've near enough raised £5,000 now. and for a community that is really struggling, just to have that the community behind us and know that without us, it would make it really difficult, and that we make such a massive difference to people in the community, and we want to keep doing that. So they're the ones that are sitting behind us and getting involved. And they're getting involved with lots of things. A little girl that comes to one of my dance academy, she decided to do cartwheels around the block and raised £410.
Right, here's what I'm going to suggest now, because time is very short here. It just flies here when you're doing a lot of useful work, is that let's open up the center and invite the whole of the city to the center to come and engage.
Absolutely.
Right? And let's bring awareness to the center. Like today, you've certainly opened up our eyes, and we need to go to LE3, go and visit your center. So I'm going to make a suggestion to you now, is that the first person to come there is myself, right?
Yeah.
And all you're going to cost you after Ramadan, which is next Wednesday or Thursday, is a cup of tea made from Yorkshire tea bags. Yorkshire tea, it's a green bag that you can buy in Asda or Sainsbury's anywhere. That's the brand. And some malted milk biscuits, and also some digestive biscuits, the red one. And
you'll be fine.
And we're going to start.
We've got lots of people in there that will be happy to
like,
meet those needs.
And reciprocating, we'll arrange a visit for you as well to one of the community centres in our area. So we can,
that'd be amazing.
We can start building bridges and support each other. And for that, I'll lay on a cup of tea and some onion bhajis and some samosas and some good condiments. How's that?
All right, that'd be fantastic.
And we're gonna do this through the medium of food.
Yeah,
right?
Always a good idea.
And food is going to get the job done. I've got a techie here with us. He's the expert on that. And in fact, I'm going to bring him along with me.
Yeah.
You
Done, Zed, done.
Done. He's going to come along. So the two of us will come. And maybe if Kirk Master is free, then he can also join us. And we're going to take this community engagement to another level, Joanna.
That'd be amazing.
So as we say on Ramadan Radio, Kirk, are you with us or are you without us? Which one is it?
We're with you. We're with you. We're very welcoming of the communities and support and anything really that can be assisted to help with this project. I mean, when you go there next week, Zed, you will see it firsthand.
Yeah, you will. Yeah.
You'll get the kind of appetite for what they do, and it's not even, you know, sometimes people look at the kind of the facility and the people, but when you see the service users in there and how much it means to them to have somewhere to go and be in touch and stay in touch, and through COVID and whatever, it's phenomenal, you know, and you'll see that for yourself.
Right,
Akil,
we're going to engage with you guys and teams and Radio Ramadan Radio FM. We're all going to get together, and Kirk will really build some bridges here. So guys, we are at the end of the program now. I'd like to thank Joanna, and I'd like to thank Kirk Master for this morning's input, and we shall join you very shortly in the next program with Law in Action. Jazakallah khair.